lot of times you don't want to work with them because they don't have access to programs. They're much more stringent on their requirements and they're harder to work with in terms of a customer service standpoint. A piece of advice that you will often hear when you first talk to a real estate agent about buying a home in Hawaii or really any state or community around the country is you need to have a local mortgage broker. And it's advice that I gave for years and advice that I believed for years. And this is something that I've changed my mind on relatively recently because I've realized some new things. And so I'm going to explain why that is and why having a local quote unquote mortgage officer or lender is not necessarily valuable at all and not necessary. So the first thing is there are really no truly local mortgage companies, right? At the end of the day, all of these mortgage companies are big national companies. There may be a loan officer that works for that company in your community, but from a mortgage broker type of lender, there are no truly local companies. There are local banks that will lend money, credit unions and other state and regional banks, and they are quote unquote local, but a lot of times you don't want to work with them because they don't have access to programs. They're much more stringent on their requirements and they're harder to work with in terms of a customer service standpoint. So that is something to consider, definitely. But at the end of the day, a loan officer's geographic location or loan company is really not a value proposition. Unfortunately, for a very long time, a lot of lenders, and I've plenty of friends that this is their main reason to work with them is I'm local, I live in your community, I live on your island, whatever it is. And I've come to realize in doing business and wanting to serve clients at a very high level that that is not a valuable proposition to me. It's not something that's valuable if you physically are stationed here on the island. And so this is a hard truth to overcome. It was something that I had to really think about and evaluate my position on for a long time. But when I started to realize what really does matter, it became very clear to me that geographic location isn't one of them. And so I'm going to tell you about what does matter when it comes to selecting a loan officer or a mortgage company to help you through this process. And so the first one is their resources and their loan expertise is probably the most important thing. And what I mean by this is resources. What kind of staffing do they have to help them, one, follow up on your process, keep in touch with you, keep you updated on your progress, process your loan application, process your pre-qualification, and then when you get into escrow and you're under contract, what kind of resources do they have to help them get through that process? Do they have smart people on the back end helping them make sure that everything is in order? Because a lot of times, like real estate agents, loan officers are one-man shops and they do absolutely everything themselves. And we all understand that that's not what doctors do, right? People have different roles. You have different specialists for each part of the business, and that is not any different in the real estate or the mortgage business. So what kind of human resources do they have? What kind of loan expertise do they have that they can bring to the table to help you through that process if they don't personally have that level of expertise or they don't have the time necessarily to be really in the weeds helping you through the process because they got lots of different things going on. So that's something to consider and understand is big picture. What does staffing look like? What does expertise look like? The second one is their relationships. You don't have to be living on the island to have really strong relationships. And most importantly, credibility. Credibility is what matters. When you are out there making offers on homes, especially in a competitive market, a listing agent, a good listing agent is going to look at the pre-qualification letter and who the loan officer is on the other side. And if that person has credibility with them, they've closed deals with them before, they know that they have a well-vetted pre-qualification process or pre-approval process, that's going to carry weight in that listing agent's mind when they are comparing offers. If there's another offer that's maybe just as strong, but it's with some bank that they've never heard of or a loan officer that they don't have any personal relationship with, they've never done a deal with before, it's gonna have less credibility, and that's something that you want to consider. Those relationships in the world of Zoom today, it doesn't matter where that person is, right? At the end of the day, if that person has credibility, they can be anywhere in the world, and that listing agent will look at it and say, hey, that's somebody that I know, like, and trust because I've done deals with them before and they're credible, and that'll help you in your offer process. The third thing is what kind of service does that person provide? This is a big one that we've developed with our loan team that we work with is what kind of service does that loan officer provide to go above and beyond to help you get your offer submitted? And this is a simple thing that our team does, which I think all loan officers should do, and a lot of them don't, is when an offer is made, they call that listing agent. If they don't have an already existing relationship with them, they'll build that relationship, but they'll also explain the buyer's situation, explain how extensive their pre-approval process was, give them confidence that that buyer is capable of qualifying and closing the deal. And so that way, they're just not going off of a printed piece of paper. They're talking to a human being that is helping you win, especially in a competitive offer situation, or maybe when the finances are tight and you're really in a hard negotiation. That loan officer can really be a huge asset in helping you communicate to that listing agent that you have a strong buyer and that you guys can get to the closing table. So what kind of service do they provide, going above and beyond? And then once you get into escrow, keeping everyone informed. A lot of times the other side gets a little bit squirrely and they get apprehensive because they're not getting communicated with. And if you have a proactive loan officer that's staying in touch, giving them weekly updates, letting them know what's happening next, it's going to keep a seller and a listing agent much calmer and much more confident that you're going to be able to get to the finish line. So what kind of service are they providing? Something that you really want to look into and ask about. And the last thing, maybe most importantly, is how many deals do they do? This is something that we don't evaluate strongly enough. Doesn't matter where somebody actually lives, right, or where they're physically located. Are they actually doing deals in that market? Because if you get a brand new person in a market that lives in that community and they do 2 deals a year, they have the level of knowledge and market expertise that they have is nowhere near somebody that maybe lives in a different state but does 100 deals a year in that community. Their level of knowing what the challenges are going to be, what the nuances of the market is, all of those types of things, that experience is extremely, extremely valuable. And that has nothing to do with where a person physically lives. And so that's a question that you want to ask beyond, are you local, is what does your local knowledge and expertise look like to help me overcome market challenges and make sure that I can achieve my goals as a buyer? So consider that. All of that being said, we still have local loan officers that we work with on our team. And I just think this is something that you really want to consider is when someone says, hey, here's a recommendation, they're local, that is not the level of examination that you want to go through. You want to ask some additional questions like I just went through and make sure that that person has the expertise, they have the relationships, they have the level of service that you're expecting, they have the resources that you need to help you accomplish your goals. So when you're out there shopping for somebody to help you in the loan process, please consider all of those things and don't put any weight into where they're physically located, because that's not a value proposition and it's something that can get you into trouble. So if you have any questions about this or you have any objections, please, I'd love to hear them. You can always put them in the comments below or email me at dylan@buyabigisland.com, or you can book a meeting with me. There's a link to my calendar right in the description. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next week. Aloha.